Hello everyone. Imagine this. You buy a $200 plane ticket that's leaving for Italy in 2 days. You're so excited for this trip, but then you get sick. Like really sick. Nothing life-threatening, but it's hard to keep things in your stomach. Unfortunately, the ticket is not refundable, so either you go on the plane or you lose your money. What do you do? Now, be honest with yourself. Are you thinking about toughing it out? Are you thinking, you know what? Yeah, I could probably handle a 10-hour plane ride to Italy. This is called the sunk cost fallacy, which is when we can't accept that the money we had spent on something is gone for good, and the value we thought we'd get from something cannot be recovered. So in the case of the plane ticket, it's hard for our brains to rationalize that the $200 has already been spent, and staying at home to get healthier is better than being miserable on a plane for 10 hours to try to get value from something that's already been lost. There are more flights and you can catch another one. Part of the reason why we don't like accepting sunk costs is because of loss aversion. Loss aversion is a tendency for humans to want to avoid loss whenever possible because they don't like it. So when faced with the possibility of losing $200, our brains naturally want to avoid that as much as possible. Here are some examples of the sunk cost fallacy that I think you can appreciate. You sign a basketball player to a multi-million-dollar contract and they end up not being as good as they used to be. In fact, there are some players on the bench who you're paying less who are way better than this guy, but you keep giving him more minutes in the game because you paid a lot for him to play and you want to get your money's worth. But that's impossible. You can't accept that the player just isn't good anymore and that you lost a bunch of money, so you're trying to recover from that loss by having him play more, even if you're better off having a bench player play. Or let's say you're watching a really horrible movie, but you're about 30 minutes into it and you figure you might as well keep watching until the end. You keep watching because you don't want to feel like those 30 minutes are put to waste, so you try to get some non-existent value that you'd hypothetically receive by watching the rest of the movie. Of course, it makes more sense for you to just stop watching the movie if you don't like it. When we were talking about sunk costs in my intro psych class a few years ago, I remember a girl in the front row rose her hand to ask a question. She asked, wait, so I have a friend who's in a 4-year relationship that she doesn't feel comfortable in anymore, and she doesn't want to leave because she says she's too invested. Is that a sunk cost? To which my professor replied, yes, it is. The sunk cost fallacy sometimes makes us stay in things that we might be better off leaving. Most of the people in that lecture hall felt the weight of that comment, as I'm sure many of them have been in friendships, relationships, or deals that they might have been better off leaving. Majors that they didn't like, clubs they didn't want to join, jobs they didn't want. It's easy to feel like you're too invested in something and to just quit. But that's the point of this video. The sunk cost fallacy makes it difficult for us to quit something we feel we are too invested in, especially since we might think we're losing something because of it. However, most of the time it's better to accept your losses and move on, as you will never recover the true value of something once it is gone. Life is full of sunk costs, and it's best to recognize them and not let them bring you down. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.